RadiumOne CEO Gurbaksh Chahal, or Chahal, I should say, has been charged or was charged with felonies for assaulting his girlfriend. He was caught in a 30-minute video surveillance tape beating his girlfriend because she allegedly cheated on him in a recent trip to Vegas. Home security footage reportedly showed Chahal beating and kicking his girlfriend 117 times during the 30-minute attack. So this goes to court, and interestingly enough, the outcome of the case is that he will serve absolutely no time in prison, but he will get probation. So let me give you the charges, or I should say his exact sentence. So 3 years probation, 52 weeks in a domestic violence training program, 25 hours of community service. That seems extremely light considering the fact that he hit his girlfriend, hopefully at this point ex-girlfriend, 117 times in that tape. Now let me give you the really quick technicalities that he was able to get off on. So first of all, the police apparently obtained that tape illegally. Apparently they didn't do so with legal means, so as a result, the judge was unable to use that footage as evidence in the case. So there's a technicality right there. Also, after he hired a former prosecutor as his defense attorney, his girlfriend decided that she no longer wanted to participate or cooperate in the trial. And so that's a big problem because obviously you need her testimony, you need her to cooperate. So he originally had felony charges, but those charges were later dropped to misdemeanor charges. He pleaded guilty to misdemeanor domestic violence and battery.
So, but that's exactly how the rich wind up having an advantage over all of us, right? So, of course, the most relevant part of the story was when you started by saying tech millionaire. And you knew what the outcome was going to be. For 117 blows, you think you were going to get 117 months or weeks or days in jail? Nobody thought that. We knew how that story was going to end. Everybody knew how that story was going to end. So it's not just that judges are more sympathetic to the rich, which they are. Like, so for example, in the situation where the DuPont heir had raped his own kids, the judge said he wouldn't fare well in prison. Like what? Oh, poor people and middle class people, they would fare perfectly well in prison.
That's where they belong.
Right, but this rich guy, well, he doesn't belong in prison, so he wouldn't fare well. In the affluenza kid, it seemed like the judge thought, well, could happen to anybody, right? In this case, maybe there was some of that too, but there was also a little bit of the OJ situation where you hire great lawyers because you're rich, and then all of a sudden they realize they find a way to make the tape inadmissible, and then you get a good enough defense attorney that I don't know if she was intimidated by the fact that he was a former prosecutor. I don't know what part of that changed their mind, but all of a sudden you lose your best witness, and this is how money winds up being a gigantic advantage. Now, if you think that a regular dude in Cleveland, white, black, Latino, it doesn't matter at all, beat his girlfriend 117 times over the course of a 30-minute attack over and over and over again, a working class guy, that he wouldn't wind up in jail? Well, what's he going to do? He's going to find experts on the camera. He's going to find a former prosecutor to represent him. He's not going to find any of that stuff. Here's what he's going to find: a jail cell.
Yeah, there is a double standard in our justice system. If you come from a lower socioeconomic status, you are unlikely to get away with a light sentence as this guy has, or as that 16-year-old affluenza kid did. And it's really, really depressing to know that that's the case, because this woman was beaten for 30 minutes straight. There's video surveillance of it. Honestly, I know that we have laws in place that stop cops from obtaining evidence illegally, and it's important to have those laws in place. But if this surveillance exists and you have hardcore evidence and proof that this guy was beating someone, how are you going to say, no, we can't use that evidence based on a technicality? That makes me so angry. And again, I understand why we have those laws in place. So but that doesn't change the fact that the evidence exists.
Well, so that's interesting, because I'm actually a conservative on this, and I was in law school too. I always thought that was the wrong rule, that you throw out the evidence. Why do you throw out the evidence? Because all you're doing is hurting the victim. What you should do is punish the cops who got it illegally. It still exists. Use it in the trial, right? But then say, hey, cops, you did something wrong in getting that tape, so punish the guy who committed the assault, and punish the cops, because they both did something wrong.
Right. But in the future, the cops won't even attempt to get the evidence.
That's part of the problem. And I know, and that's a valid criticism of my position on that. And look, if they did it equally, and they were meticulous in delivering justice to everybody, and they threw out the evidence in the case of the poor and the middle class all the time as well, then maybe you could live with it a little bit more. But the reality is, it's the rich who can afford great lawyers who wind up taking advantage of those things a lot more.
And just to give you a sense of how wealthy this guy is, when he was 16, he was already a multimillionaire, and he was self-made. It's not like he inherited the wealth. Just to give you an idea, he sold his first online ad network, ClickAgents.com Inc., to Value Click Inc., at the age of 16 for $20.5 million in stock. 7 years later, he sold Blue Lithium Inc., which he also founded, to Yahoo for $300 million in cash. It's unbelievable.
Well, then he should get off. I mean, I didn't know he was that rich. So Steve-O, who's our COO here, but who used to be a former prosecutor in Los Angeles, makes another good point about how the rich have another advantage, which is that when they come in with attorneys, they're going to extend the proceedings, right? Whether it's a trial, whatever it might be. And it's going to cost the government a lot of money and a lot of resources. Whereas they can take that money and resources and use it to intimidate people who don't have those high-powered attorneys into getting a lot more plea deals, right? Mm-hmm. So when they come in loaded with, with attorneys, he knows through his experience, his bosses would say, just let him off at a lighter sentence.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
Laziness is a virus.
Yeah.
It really
and they say, look, but we have so many cases to go through. We don't have enough money to do it. Yeah. And I understand that point of view too. So it's a combination of those things. And look, some of that you just can't solve. The rich are, of course, by definition, always going to have more money, and they're going to have more lawyers. I just wish they didn't add that extra layer on top that we've seen recently with the Affluenza case and the DuPont case, where they go, well, they're rich. They don't really belong in jail. I mean, that's for the average man, not for someone who's a millionaire.